Warning: this video is not intended for persons underneath the age of 13. Thank you. Hey everybody, it's the Airs1999, and today we are marking this channel hitting 100 subscribers. Seriously, that's just amazing to me that, several scores of people have considered my content good enough to follow on YouTube. Now, I figured that a great way to celebrate this was to homebrew in one of my all-time favorite books, Ready Player One. That's right, we're putting RPO into D&D. Isn't that COOL? If you're unfamiliar, RPO is a sci-fi action-adventure set in the 2040s. Modern society is crumbling under decades of energy crisis, so people seek solace in a virtual world known as the Oasis. The Oasis, or the ontologically anthropocentric sensory immersive simulation, was built by James Halliday and Ogden Morrow through their company Gregarious Simulation Systems. It was originally made to be the world's biggest MMO, but over time it just evolved into being the world where most people lived. Things like schools, businesses, travel destinations, and entertainment centers all transferred to just existing in this world. The system is divided into 27 sectors arranged in the shape of a Rubik's Cube.
The cube? What is this, this cube of Rubik, then?
It's my bad, because, you know what, by the way, your brother, he didn't want to mess with it either.
Each one of these sectors is a square that's 10 light hours on a side, which means that the whole of the system is 10 light hours by 10 light hours by 10 light hours by 27 sectors, or 27,000 cubic light hours in volume. That is over 8.14 times 10 to the 30th power cubic miles. By the way, if you don't like the term cubic light hours, neither did my editor. Seriously, have you ever actually heard someone use that phrase before, cubic light hours? Now, even when the Oasis stopped being just a game, it still maintain a lot of its game aspects, such as a health bar, leveling system, magic, and weapons. We don't get too much insight into how the leveling system works, aside from that the level cap is 99 and that it likely affects your health. Also know that you gain experience through your quests and your kills. But for our purposes, rather than try to work backwards through that, we're just going to use the main D&D level system. Now, as the Oasis expanded, GSS also bought up the intellectual property to a whole bunch of franchises. This includes stuff like Firefly, Ultraman, the band Rush, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I guess it's possible that they didn't actually pay for these. I mean, at this point, the government is far too in shambles to deal with various copyright allegations, especially against the world's largest company, and I doubt that the Oasis itself is managing what each user is doing and whether or not they're holding up to copyright standards. But yeah, we don't need to worry about that. This is your own D&D game. Just kind of a thought I had while making this video that they might not necessarily be paying royalties anyway. I digress. Anyway, the main plot of the book is that James Halliday has died, and he built a massive quest across the Oasis. Whoever completes it and finds his Easter egg will inherit his full estate, which also includes control of the Oasis. To do this, you'll have to find 3 keys, which themselves have challenges guarding them, and then go through quests that have another set of challenges. And you know what? The book puts this pretty well with the poem. 3 hidden keys open 3 secret gates, wherein the errant will be tested for worthy traits, and those with the skill to survive these straits will reach the end where the prize awaits. Yep, I think I do a pretty good impression of James Halliday right there, and Wade Watts, and Will Wheaton. Yep, I was all 3 of those guys at once. Bet you couldn't even tell it was me. Now, what I'm suggesting you do is combine D&D for a Ready Player One style adventure that's set in the world of the Oasis. I mean, this would let you combine elements of basically any franchise without being immersion breaking. How often are you going to get to combine Star Wars, The Shining, and Dragon Ball into one campaign? Hey, those are all topics that I've covered in videos. It's almost like I actually planned for this. Now, if you set your game in a Ready Player One style world, then the players can make any kind of characters they want. If they really like recreating builds from other works or have designs that don't fit the typical high fantasy setting of D&D, this setup could work for you. This also means that your players are playing as people who made avatars to access the Oasis. So they are role-playing as characters, role-playing as other characters. So if you want to throw in some real-world struggles to your game, this could work for you. Something else that this would allow is some degree of metagaming. Wait, put down your torches and let me explain what I mean. If the framing device for the setting is that it's in a video game, then it's realistic to see things like health and have a... When you think about it, it is kind of metagaming for players to think of the abstract resources as concrete ones. Like, for example, in World, the wizards would almost certainly be able to know that they can only cast so many spells per day, but it's not like they divide spells into different levels and think about terms like spell slots and how they can only cast a certain number of third level spells per day. It's just not really how things work within universe. And, the same thing goes for stuff like Monastic Key, Barbarian Rages, and, well, Health. Now, since the players are also directly connected to the internet, they would have access to monster stats. So if your players are more tactically minded and like thinking of the game in terms of numbers and optimal solutions, then this setup could work for you. But if, say, you like the idea of them being able to see their own resources but don't like them having access to monster stats, then there are also a couple things we can do there. Perhaps they're on a new planet with creatures that have not yet been logged by other players. Perhaps instead the quest is designed to not let you look up answers while playing. I mean, after all, while in the gates, players can't access the net. And you can also just have it be part of the gaming social contract that they agree not to do that. If you want to, you can design a full adventure around the plot of hunting down Halliday's egg. In the context of this adventure, I guess the players would all be part of the same clan of Gunters, so that's short for egg hunters. They would have all legally vowed to hunt the egg together and split the prize money if they find it. Speaking of prize money, the money in RPO is represented by the Oasis credit. If you want to, you can use this for a streamlined money system. 1 copper piece is equal to 1 credit, so 10 is 1 silver and 100 is gold. But if you do go for this adventure approach, you will have to rethink a lot of the challenges. I mean, after all, in the first gate, the user had to assume the role of David Lightman and play through a recreation of WARGAMES. Aside from the impracticality of doing this, and the lack of player agency involved in recreating a movie at the table, each player got their own standalone version to go through, so, kind of defeats the table dynamic. What you should instead do is think of some of your favorite books, video games, movies, and make your own challenges via D&D style quests. Perhaps you have a Mortal Kombat challenge where they have to square off in a deathmatch against a powerful monk. Wait, Mortal Kombat Homebrew. I should do that video at some point. That said, don't feel like you have to do Halliday's Egg quest. I mean, after all, you've got a whole wide galaxy of adventures that you can go on. You can do any kind of quest you want. Maybe the X from, Metroid fuse with the Flood from Halo and they evade Tatooine. Could happen. Perhaps instead, out in the land of Oz, King Piccolo teams up with Krampus, and they're hunting Shingon Wu, and after the players defeat them, then they can get their collection of magic items. Speaking of magic items, there are plenty of those in Ready Player One. The most powerful of these are known as artifacts. Now, we've mostly skirted around spoilers for the book, but we are going to start getting more into these here. So if you don't want any spoilers, go to the timestamp that I'm going to show now. The beta capsule is a tube about the size of a lightsaber handle and can turn the user into a superhero the size of a skyscraper for up to 3 minutes each day. The catch is that if you exceed those 3 minutes, you auto-die. No death saves or anything like that. Now, since 30 minutes is 30 rounds of combat, you might want to limit that to 1 minute per day. In order to get this item in the book, Wade, he has to go on a massive adventure with some of his Japanese friends based around the TV show for Ultraman, and at one point someone uses it in combat, ends up dying from it, and Wade gets to inherit it after the, player controlling it dies. That could go back into that sort of wrinkle of it being both characters playing characters. Then there's the Orb of Ozavox, which is a magical sphere that can only be used by a top-level spellcaster. While active, it creates an impenetrable force field 1 click in diameter around the user. This was used in sort of the final battle of the book, where the bad guys had sealed off the castle that contained the third gate. Then there is the Catalyst, which is a single-use artifact that insta-kills everyone in a sector. Bad guys in the book used it as soon as the third gate was open. So, yeah, you could do something kind of clever there, but you might want to be careful with just ambushing your players with an insta-kill. That's usually not good DMing. There's Fendor's Tablet of Finding that lets you track down any user in the Oasis by writing down their name. The closer you are to them, the more details you can get on their exact location. Then, everyone who cleared the second gate got a giant metal robot that they used in the final battle. That could be a ton of fun. You just give it like some, very powerful monster stats, and they can use them at their own discretion. Kaiju battles. Then there is the Quarter of 1981. This will auto-resurrect its user at full health. This was actually used by Wade after the Catalyst killed him, and he was able to earn it by playing a perfect game of Pac-Man. Yeah, I mean, perhaps you could have like a challenge in-game where they have to navigate around a maze and there are ghosts trying to kill them. Pac-Man. Hey, I should do a Pac-Man homebrew video. Nah, I digress. Okay, that's enough for the spoilers. Now, one of the major appeals of the Oasis is that any user can add to it by buying up a plot and then developing the land for it. And this could be anything from like, a small asteroid up into an entire planetoid. So that could be fun if, the players, once they have enough credits, they buy up their own piece of land and make it into their home base. They defend it against attackers, and it's just floating out there somewhere in space. Speaking of space, there's also the issue of travel. Most people in the Oasis travel using teleporter pods, and the fee there is based off of the distance that you want to go. You can also get a vehicle and just pay for fuel costs. In the Oasis, there's every kind of vehicle you can imagine, from both the real world and any fandom. Land vehicles are also pretty common. Early on in the book, the main character is in a recreation of Halliday's hometown and is able to just snag a car. If you need to, you can also teleport with your spaceship by going through a Stargate. Maybe you start the players off in a world for some introductory missions, then after they get enough credits, they can teleport away to explore the galaxy, and then eventually they get their own ship. Personally, I would get a ship that is able to carry on some cars with me, both as land vehicles and also as projectiles. Imagine you're just soaring through somewhere and you just drop a station wagon on someone.
You'll never catch me! Hey, that's not fair! Cowboys couldn't afford cannons.
They couldn't afford station wagons either.
The world of the Oasis is inhabited both by players and various NPCs. I mean, from a D&D standpoint, these would both qualify as non-player characters, but you could still have the distinction. So while players might be able to get away with robbing an NPC, well, another player might go after them. Another thing you could do with this is running connected adventures, where you and another DM, or even if you just run 2 or 3 different tables, and they all exist inside the same Oasis, and their choices affect each other. I really feel like this reflects the themes of the book quite well, but it also works for any type of adventure. I've always wanted to do a game like this. And speaking of wanting to do a game, I would also love to, at some point, be able to do a Ready Player One style game with you guys, my viewers. It's probably not going to be anytime soon, but maybe for another subscriber mark. I think that would be great. Just, each person makes their own customized character based off of homebrew fandom stuff, and then I make a crazy adventure that we all go through. And, well, that is all I really have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video and for any other videos that you may have watched. I can't believe I made it to 100 subscribers, and who knows, maybe I'll make it to another 100 if you guys let me. If you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments, and feel free to give me your opinion on the movie. As we all know, it's one of the best film adaptations of a book ever made. By the way, my editor says that I shouldn't have left that joke in the script. He really didn't like that movie. The best part is that he can see me adding this paragraph to the script in real time via Google Docs. See, these are the quality moments you just don't get when emailing a Word doc back and forth.
Said editor would like it to be known that this is both a drain on my sanity and an absolute delight.
Now, I do highly recommend reading Ready Player One if you haven't already. If you'd prefer to have it read to you, there's a great audiobook version performed by Will Wheaton. You should be able to find both of those at your local library. If you want to keep your own version of it, it is available on Audible. They aren't sponsoring this video, but I wanted to mention them because it's where I got my audio copy. The first time I read it was on paper and was from my school's library, though. Seriously, great book. Go read it. Highly recommend. If you've already read it once, read it again. It's actually, to be honest, become my go-to present whenever I want to give someone a book, and I've made an annual tradition of rereading or re-listening to it every summer. If you want to check out some more of my content, I also have a video talking about putting Minecraft into D&D, and another one for Fallout New Vegas. Man, I should really do follow-up videos for both of those. I also run an actual play D&D podcast called Enter the Dungeon. My editor plays a Goliath that uses a homebrew class based off of Fullmetal Alchemist. The show's about to enter its 5th season. We're having a great time making it. I hope you guys have liked this video. Thank you all once again. Have a great day, and God bless.